Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you right now. I have on Zoom audio with me James A. Janisse, and he is the host of the YouTube channel Dead Meat. Hey, James, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm good, Scotty. Hey, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm really excited and nervous, like I said before we started recording about this interview. I'm super pumped, though. I wanted to get you on for so long, and I finally made it happen, and I'm so glad we can make this happen.
Yeah, me too, man. I always love doing interviews and such with all sizes of podcasts and YouTube channels because, I've been there at every step of the way from just a fledgling little channel to, where I am now. And I know that, the quality isn't dependent on the size.
Absolutely. And I will be the first to say that I did hear a few of your interviews, and I know you did. We're going to talk about a little bit about how you came up with the kill count. And the funny thing is your story is pretty much the same way how my story is. I was always obsessed with body counts and death scenes and all that. And I always wanted to create something like that. When I seen how you did it, I was like, I would like to do something like that as well one day. Like, I really would.
Oh, great, man. Yeah. Because you said you're working on your own project in that vein.
Yes, I have the body count out. I am actually doing the Halloween series to an extent. I'm doing the Halloween, but I'm taking a little bit of a break because I can't believe how much work goes into it.
A lot of work, man. Yeah.
Yes, and I have a full-time job on top of that, so it makes things a little more difficult to work 40 hours a week and put my weekend is 12 hours of editing and then another 6 or 7 hours on Sundays. That's not including filming and script writing.
Yep. Yeah. People don't realize how much work goes into it. And that's why I often try to live stream my editing process just so that people can see how much work goes into the videos because I'll be live streaming an edit session and it'll be, it'll go by 2 hours will go by and some people in the chat will be like, wow, I can't believe you've been working for 2 whole hours. I'm like, dude, that's nothing. These take dozens of hours to make.
Absolutely. It's crazy. It really is. And like I said, that's usually my whole weekend. So, I am so grateful that you do this and you don't just do it for like a hobby. Like this is your life. Like this is your job. So, and I'm glad you have something that you're passionate about and that you can do. And that's really great.
Yeah, me too. I'm very fortunate to have this as my job it's a lot of work like we were just saying, but I could be having to do a lot of work on something that I don't love, and that would suck. So I don't mind putting in all this time and effort because it is something I'm truly passionate about.
Absolutely. And one thing I did want to mention also to you, and since we're live, not live, but like recording, I would love to say this to you, is that I really am appreciative, especially with it being Pride Month. I'm really appreciative of how you are with the LGBTQ community, how you're so accepting and so, how you just accept equality, because I am a part of that community. And that is one main reason why I became a fan of yours, is because you're not one of those people that judge. You are for equality.
Oh, good. And yeah, it's so weird. Just how sometimes I feel like people strive to make that part of their identity, not like being a member of that community or such, but being an quote unquote ally and being supportive. And, every post they make tends to be about that. And that's fine. It's a good positive message, but I feel like that's not something entirely necessary, at least for me to do. I think you need both. I think you need people who are very outspoken allies and are always bringing those issues to the forefront and in that regard. But I also think you need sometimes people who just kind of normalize it, because I don't think of myself as it's never an inconvenience or an effort to me to be supportive. It's just being a good people. It just makes sense to me. And it's shocking to me that it's not just a natural, intuitive thing. So I love hearing from various communities that they appreciate my support of them. And, I am mindful of things that maybe I have blind sides to, because as a straight white man, I, started life on easy. So it's easy for me to get blindsided by the privileges that I'm afforded. But really, I think it just comes down to being a good person and just recognizing that everyone is entitled to the same kind of treatment. I don't know, man. It's ridiculous.
It really is. Now, really, this is like, I know you were or are a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
I am a huge wressling fan myself. And
Yeah, you said that you had some wrestlers on your show, right? Who have you had?
I had JTG. I had James Ellsworth, Kazarni.
Oh, nice.
So I had a couple of people that were on my show. What the hell is going on with the releases today? Braun Strowman.
Oh, yeah.
Ruby Riott.
Just a few hours before we started recording, they announced a whole bunch of releases. The most shocking by far being Braun Strowman.
Oh, like, absolutely.
That guy was world champ less than a year ago.
Right. He was just at WrestleMania in a high-profile match with Shane McMahon.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I stopped watching regularly. Like, okay, so I watched as a kid in like the wrestling craze, like probably 99 to 01. Stopped shortly after the invasion angle concluded. And then I didn't get back into it until 2019. So huge gap, huge blind spot there. And I watched real consistently for 2019 and 2020. And then near the end of 2020, I started to lose a little bit of interest, and I dropped watching Raw, and I just stuck to SmackDown because I think SmackDown, at least right now, is the far better show.
Yes.
And then like they released those, they did the releases earlier this year that included my favorites, the IIconics. Who
that was one of my questions.
Yeah, and as soon as they released them, I was like, you know what, this just might not be for me. So I stopped watching entirely. I think for WrestleMania Backlash, was that the last pay-per-view that they had?
Yes, that was.
Yeah, for that one, I put it on my second monitor while I was working and barely paid attention. But it's such a sad fall from how I used to watch the pay-per-views because, I mean, before COVID, I had viewing parties for all of them and would have 20, 25 people over to watch these things all together, order a whole bunch of subs and have a bunch of drinks, and it was a blast. Like literally, I think what was the last one before COVID hit? I think Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, I was actually at that event too.
You were there? Oh,
yes,
cool.
I was.
Yeah, when you're there in person, it's so much fun, and the energy is so great, and I love it because we went to SummerSlam 2019, and then we went to the premiere of SmackDown on Fox because I was here in LA. Yes. So I mean, and both of those occasions, at the end of one of them, a guy came up to us and was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I wasn't even watching the wrestling. I was just watching you guys because you guys were so excited." And I was like, everyone should be. We're watching people wrestle. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
when the Undertaker came out at Elimination Chamber, the place lost it, but it was so cool because I'd never seen the Undertaker come from like under the ring. Like every time I seen him, it would always be when he was in a match. It was never like where the gong rings and then he comes out from under the ring and then he hides, and then afterwards when he on TV he's gone, he literally quickly slides out and goes right back under, which is really
Dude,
cool.
I am so jealous of you because we actually had tickets to WrestleMania 2020. We had they were real good tickets. I think they were like second or third row, and we were fucking pumped. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yes, you can. Fuck yeah.
All right. We were fucking pumped to go there, and then COVID hit and knocked it out. And that was Undertaker's last match. We were gonna see Undertaker's last match, and now I've never seen him live, and so I never will. And that just sucks. I want to sit there for 20 minutes while he slowly walks down to the ring. Yeah, I'll never get to experience that.
Yep. Oh my God. And it is really great in person. I was at, I hope I don't make you really jealous here, and it wasn't really that great of a pay-per-view, but it was to an extent. But I was at WrestleMania 29 in Jersey.
Oh, cool.
Yes. And that was Undertaker, CM Punk, John Cena, The Rock.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was really cool. And then I was at Raw the night after, where we had where Undertaker was there as well, and that was, I think, was it Ryback that turned heel against John Cena or something, and Dolph Ziggler cashed in Money in the Bank. Like,
wow.
Epic. Yes.
Oh, that's great, dude.
Yes,
yeah, I mean,
really
the coolest thing I saw live was at SummerSlam 2019 was The Fiend's wrestling debut. So we got to be there in person for when his music was played for the first time. And I remember sitting there that whole event being like, match after match would happen. And we were just like, wait, Fiend versus Balor still hasn't gone on. They're doing that. They're doing that late. Oh, this is going to be a thing, huh?
Yes.
And it was awesome.
It was. And I don't even know if you remember, I think it was the last man standing match between Kane and Shane at Unforgiven 2003 in Hershey. I was at that event.
Oh, wow. Oh, so you've been there for a while then.
Yeah, I've been a wrestling fan since '93, and I was like
Oh,
3 or 4 years old.
Nice,
My
man.
first show what I watched was Raw, and I remember the main event perfectly. It was Undertaker versus Damien Demento. I remember the main event, the very first
I
main
don't even
event.
know who Damien Demento is, but that's great, man.
He was a jobber.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I love going to wrestling events. Me and my dad always went to them together. And then when he got hit with brain cancer almost 5 years ago, and now he's currently in the hospital. He can't walk again, so they gave him a year and a half to live. And he had a stroke and everything like that after brain surgery. They gave him a year and a half to live, and then he ended up he's going on 5 years now, so he's out beating all the odds.
Well, good for him, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that that kind of fight.
Yes, absolutely. So one question and you may have answered this in many of interviews. I don't know. I just didn't see the answers. And I'm actually curious about this question. So what made you decide to start the channel Dead Meat, and where did that name come from?
So previous to Dead Meat, I had a channel called Practical Folks that was with a group of people, including my now fiance, Chelsea Rebecca.
Nice.
It was 4 of us with like additional people in various roles, but I'm proud of the stuff that we did on that channel, but we did hit a plateau as far as growth goes. I think we were around 60,000 subscribers, and which is a great number for a YouTube channel. But I knew that I wanted to make YouTube a career and be able to work for myself. And with those kinds of numbers and splitting everything 4 ways, that wasn't going to happen. Like that, it just wasn't. So eventually in 2016, late 2016, I started to develop my ideas for my own solo channel just so I can make content on my own time. Because with Practical Folks, I mean, those people are still my best friends and we hang out every day. But I was doing the majority of the work, the editing work, and I was just the one who always wanted to do more. And the other people would, various time commitments or whatever, would hold us back from being able to release more content. So I decided, okay, I'll just do my own channel. I'll still do Practical Folks, but with my own channel, I can release things on my terms. And so I started to try to figure out what I wanted my channel to be about. And I actually, for a little while, considered having a channel that covered 3 different things, which wouldn't work at all. And it's shocking that even after 4 years of doing YouTube under Practical Folks, that I still misunderstood the platform enough to think that this was at all a good idea. But I was like, okay, I'll have a James A. Janisse channel, and it'll cover horror movies, and it'll cover fitness, and it'll cover politics. And people can come to this channel for all 3 of those things, which makes no fucking sense. It doesn't at all. But I was like, okay, well, the first thing I'll do is I'll start with horror movies, and then I'll eventually add the other stuff. But as I developed the idea, I realized that I would probably be spending more time with horror movies than the other things, and decide to make the channel solely devoted to that. I think I still had the plan to eventually have other channels with those other interests of mine, but those just, once Dead Meat became my job, it was like, okay, I don't have time for other channels. But the name Dead Meat, I mean, I'm real bad at naming things. Practical Folks was a name that we came up with after, I think, literally over 1,000 suggestions and just random words that we threw out there, and we just kind of decided as a committee. But with Dead Meat, I did have a few other other options late in the game, but none of them were as simple to spell and as easy to remember as Dead Meat. So I'm happy that I came up with that name, and it comes from Friday 6 Jason Lives, when the kids are like, what do you think? Oh, I think we're dead meat, real dead meat. And that's why that's in the extended intro for the channel, like what plays in front of the podcast episodes. And so that's where I took the name, and it took off. Yeah, it was great.
Awesome. And I know you do like a lot of low budget indie films, right?
What do you mean?
Like independent films, like low budget, for example, Thanksgiving, or like those they're really stupid that they're good type of thing.
I've actually haven't done too many of those because let's see, I did Thanksgiving. Other than that, I don't know. I haven't done too many because for a few reasons. First off, as the channel grows and as YouTube's algorithm changes, which is always a struggle to keep up with, but people, especially right now, tend to be more interested in new well-known properties. And honestly, if it were up to me, I would be covering just 80s slashers, like cheesy movies that are easier for me to go through and summarize, and easier for me to find background information on, and celebrate the cheesiness of those. But those episodes don't do as well. And so I've got to I've always got to release the ones like Countdown and Escape Room, and just these newer, flashier ones that'll appeal to the younger audience. And at this point, I'm trying to do kind of a one for you, one for me type situation where I'll do like the bigger, more requested movies. And then I'll do a movie like, I don't know, Happy Birthday to Me is a recent one that I put out, where it's like a weird 80s slasher that I had a lot of fun talking about. But I also try to avoid the really low budget, really amateur films put together, because, you know, part of the show is having fun with the movies and kind of teasing them and having fun and pointing out when things don't really work for me. And I don't want to bully movies that are made on a shoestring budget by people who are just trying to figure stuff out. And that's not my style. I don't want to, like, Thanksgiving is a unique case. But I think those people knew exactly what they were doing. I would imagine that if they saw my episode about their film, they would probably laugh along with it, because at a certain point in that episode, I'm just bewildered by what I'm watching, and I'm laughing at the absurdity of it all. But I don't want to put on a movie that was made real cheap with bad effects and bad acting and just shit all over the people who made it. Because, you know what, they made a movie, which is something I've never done. So I respect them and have more respect for them than what I do for myself.
And I'll be the first to say, my first movie that my company put together, it was literally, I spent $6,000 of my own personal funds. We didn't have a budget. And was it good? No, it wasn't good. But we got experience. We learned from our mistakes. Now we just made on our Indiegogo for our next movie that we film in July. Now we literally just reached the $4,000 mark on donations.
Great. And
so we made a lot of connections from it. So I'm really excited. And it's kind of based on the pandemic to an extent, more like a cabin fever type of thing. So we're kind of working on that. So that's going to be really exciting as well.
Good luck with that, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's got a budget now. That's all that matters at this point. Absolutely. So what is your most favorite kill count you've done and your least favorite?
Oh, man. Let's start with least favorite. I always have a hard time saying that something's my least favorite because in general, I have a hard time saying that. Like, people ask what my least favorite horror movie is. And honestly, I just said, like, I made a big deal out of I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer just to have an answer to that question. But at a certain point, I feel like when you don't like something, you don't like it. It just reaches a floor and everything's on that floor. There's not like something in the cellar. As far as my own kill counts go, it's really hard for me to say that there's a least, because most of them I have only the vast majority of them, I would say probably like 90 to 95% of them, I haven't watched since I released them. You know, I spend so much time making them, editing them, watching them back to catch any mistakes, and then I publish them, and that's it. Like, I never go back to it. So it's hard for me to judge their quality, especially older ones that I haven't seen in, 4 years now. But I do remember, just to have an answer, I think one of the Candyman sequels, either 2 or 3, I remember watching back that kill count right before I posted it and being like, this one's all right, I guess. It doesn't have too many strong jokes or whatever. So maybe something like that. Because I try to make each episode unique, whether it's like an episode where I'm having more fun with it and it's more about the humor, or sometimes that doesn't work with every movie. So sometimes my episodes will be more about the making of the film and the behind the scenes stuff and just my respect for the craft. And then, there's also those episodes where I lean into the scariness of it and I add the jump scares and I try to convey how spooky the movie is. And so they all have different flavors, and that also adds to how difficult it is to judge them based against each other, since they're all doing their own thing. But as far as my favorites go, those tend to be the real iconoclastic movies, where they're just like so unique and just have such absurd what the fuck moments in them that I can have a lot of fun with them. So early on, for instance, the Leprechaun movies, I really enjoyed making jokes about those. I think that I have watched some of those kill counts back, and I think that those are still very funny.
I watched those recently, and I couldn't stop laughing at some of your jokes.
Yeah, and the thing about those is that was before I was doing all the behind the scenes stuff, which I think is valuable, and I always want to have the behind the scenes production info in my episodes just so that people can learn about the work that goes in these movies. Like we were talking about earlier, you know, people consume entertainment without always necessarily understanding the sheer amount of work that goes into it. So whether it's my editing live streams or whether it's what I include in the kill counts, I want to convey to people that yes, what we're doing in the big picture may not matter. We're not curing cancer or anything, but we are putting a lot of work into what we're doing. And so are these people, even when they're making Leprechaun movies. It's a lot of work. But what's funny to me about those early kill counts, like with the Leprechaun ones, was it was before I did that. And so those episodes are just jokes, and it's just like nonstop humor, and I can appreciate that. So those are really funny. I remember the Silent Night, Deadly Night kill counts. Those are really weird, and people were not interested in them. They did not watch those episodes, but I think they were really funny. And then more recently, stuff like Bloody Birthday and Bloody New Year, both totally unrelated films, but they're both so weird, and it was a lot of fun to just point out like I said, the absurdities sometimes in the background of these. The Bloody Birthday, there's a clown at a birthday party in Bloody Birthday who's juggling and wearing a shirt that says, "I can't say no." And that's the funniest fucking thing to me. Really Why was that in that movie? I don't know, but it's great.
So what are your thoughts on the upcoming Halloween Kills film?
Oh, I'm really excited about that. I loved Halloween 2018. I thought it was a really good return to form. I think I've mentioned that Halloween is probably my least favorite of the big three franchise. I don't know. I know that Nightmare is my favorite because I love Freddy and the creativity and just like I like that. I like Freddy a lot. Jason and Michael bore me sometimes, especially in those later sequels where it's just you know, slash 'em ups. But I think that 2018 was a really cool modernization of the slasher. Yeah, and just I thought it was great. I loved it. So as long as they continue in that kind of vein, I'm excited to see what they do with it. And yeah, it's just one of so many horror movies coming out this year because
I know.
Like they had a few that were ready to come out last year, and then they didn't because of theaters closing due to the pandemic.
Halloween Kills is one of them.
Exactly. That was going to come out last year. Spiral, which just came out, the book from the Book of Saw, that was supposed to come out last year. So it's great that this year we're getting all the movies that were going to come out last year and all the movies that have been made in the meantime and were going to come out this year. It's great. I love it.
Absolutely. So I know that Friday the 13th is coming up in August, and I know you're doing a whole redo of them because they were your first kill counts.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's going to start Friday the 13th in August.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I never specified that, but I think people were able to put two and two together when I said, I'm going to start the Friday the 13th kill counts in August. Oh, look at that. There's a Friday the 13th in August. And the reason I chose it, and because it just seemed perfect to me, is because there are 12 movies in Friday the 13th, the series, and the 12th episode, if I start on Friday, August 13th, the 12th one will come out on the Friday closest to Halloween. So,
exactly. And it's funny you mentioned that because I'm doing, I was actually going to start up the Friday the 13th on Friday the 13th for the body count. And I was going to skip the Freddy versus Jason so I could do that as its own entity. And then the Friday closest to Halloween, start it with Trick or Treat.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Yes. That was my first Halloween special too, was Trick or Treat.
Nice. Yeah. Yes. I met Sam Todd, who played what's her name? Rhonda the retard in Trick or Treat. I met her at a convention I was at. I was a guest at a convention for Gravestone Films for our first movie Samhain, and she came out and she was stopped over and said hi to me and everything. She was really, really sweet.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't met her.
Yeah, she's a very sweet lady. So we only have about a couple more minutes left, so I want to give you the chance to explain, where did the idea of the kill count come from?
Yeah, basically I wanted to cover horror movies, and I wanted to find a fun and engaging way to do so. Right. And I've talked about it before. I actually made my own horror movie website back in like 2003, I think. I learned HTML just to code it. Nice. It was a very basic website, but it was me and my friends and I would watch horror movies with them, and we would do really shitty little reviews of them. And one of the things on this website, and the thing that I most consistently did on the website, was body counts for the horror movies. And I don't know, my brain works in a weird way. I'm always trying to be productive and turn everything that I do into something productive. And so, and that was the case even when I was young. So it was a way of watching these movies and somehow logging them by keeping track of the kills in them. And so I just went back to that idea when I, 20 years later, when I decided to do this YouTube channel, and it worked out.
Awesome. So 2 more questions I'll ask you. The first one is, I know you're a big fan of the IIconics. What are your thoughts about them being released, and what do you think, and where do you think they should do from here? Where should they go? AEW, New Japan, Impact? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when they, like I said earlier, when they were released, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me to stop keeping up with WWE, just because it's so stupid. Like, they are, I mean, one, their split was a huge problem for me. Splitting them up was completely senseless, didn't make any sense. And, like Billy Kay, Jessica, is one of the funniest people they have. She's just so naturally talented. And even if they didn't have something for them in ring, or if they wanted to push Peyton as a singles wrestler, like make Billy her manager, it makes no sense to not utilize that talent that you have. And it just shows me how inept the talent management can be at WWE to let something like that go. So I've been following their podcast, Off Her Chops. It's 2 episodes in so far, and I've been listening to those. And, it's funny to hear that they haven't addressed anything directly, but it does sound like there's a possibility that they won't be continuing wrestling. And I'm fine with that. I want them to do what's good for them. And I know that Jessica is taking acting classes, and I think that is a great opportunity for her. And in fact, I've even told her that if I ever get around to writing a horror movie, I would love to put her in it, because I depending on the tone of the film, I think she could be great. I think about Spree, that movie with Joe Keery.
Yes.
I think that she would have been a fantastic bit part in that movie as like one of his passengers, just because just her style of performance is so funny. And I think that she'd be great in that. So I really wish them the best in whatever they do. It would make sense to me for Peyton or Cassie to go to AEW since her husband is there. That would, make a lot of sense. But whatever they want to do, I wish them the best of luck. And I think that they're both very talented, ambitious people who can make anything happen.
Great. So the last question I got for you, cons are starting to open back up because of the pandemic. I know you loved going to cons, and I would love to meet you one day, obviously. So do you have any plans or ideas when you'll be going back to cons? And then the last part of that question is anything that you want to promote here to our viewing and listening audience. Sure. I don't know if, let's see, I'm looking at my calendar right now. I don't know what the next con will be that we'll be at, but I do know that Son of Monster Palooza is slated for October 8th through 10th, and that we bought a table there way back before the pandemic, and that's carried over. So we will most likely be at that one. And then when is Texas Frightmare? That's a big one that we love to go to. And I can't remember. I know it was postponed. New dates have arrived. Let's see. Will be postponed to September 10th. 2021. And again, that's a case where we got a table and we got a hotel room, and all that was transferred over to this new date. So I would expect us to be there September. And that might be the first one that we go to. I don't know if there's any before that. If they are further away from us, I don't know if we'd be able to make it. If they're local to LA, that probably has a higher chance of us making it. But the next big one that I know of is Texas Frightmare, September 10th. And so we should be there. Awesome. Do you have anything you want to promote? Any websites, any kill counts, or anything that you want to promote before we say farewell? I mean, I got my social media at Dead Meat James on Twitter and Instagram. And, there's always the YouTube channel, Dead Meat,
home of the kill count. And as of today, brand new series called They Talk, created by my editor and producer, Zoran Gavoyich. And it's real fun. Next week, I don't think we've said this publicly anywhere, but next week is the second episode of They Talk. It's Scream, and I'm going to be doing the voice for it. So I hope that I can follow up Zoran's masterful performance as Jason in this first episode. Awesome. We'll see how it goes.
And I will verify to everybody to definitely watch it, because I watched it this morning and it was very great. And it was funny. It was very funny. And I enjoyed every minute of it. So definitely check that out for James. Support his channel. Subscribe to his channel. Subscribe, like any of his social medias. Thank you, James, for joining me.
Hey, thanks a lot, Scotty, for having me, man.
Not a problem. Thank you. You have a good rest of your day.
You too.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.